Good evening. You're watching the news tonight with me, Ishan Russell, and these are the headlines we're tracking tonight. Cheered on by thousands of supporters, Arvind Kejriwal takes oath as the 8th Chief Minister of Delhi, promises to fight corruption while holding no portfolio. Prime Minister inaugurates GE's manufacturing hub in Pune, promises series of reforms while announcing easier entry for investors in hospitality sector. India successfully test fires 290-kilometer range BrahMos supersonic cruise missile from Navy's newest destroyer, INS Kolkata, launch described as flawless. Ukraine ceasefire pact under siege, 25 people killed in ferocious battles as Russian-backed forces launch assault on border town. And India will begin the World Cup title defence tomorrow against Pakistan. Dhoni's men hope to keep a clean slate against the arch rivals in the World Cup. The top story this evening, Aam Aadmi Party leader Arvind Kejriwal was sworn in as Delhi's Chief Minister by Lieutenant Governor Najib Jung at the Ramlila Maidan today. At a ceremony that stood out for sheer audience participation, Kejriwal said it was a miracle that people from all castes and classes voted for the AAP in such huge numbers.
For the second time in 2 years, Arvind Kejriwal took oath as the Delhi's Chief Minister at the Ramlila Maidan. The ceremony on Valentine's Day was marked by a trademark fiery speech, in the course of which he made many promises. Among them was the pledge to run the government with a full 5-year term.
दिल्ली से एक और नई किस्म की शुरुआत करना चाहते हैं। ये वीआईपी कल्चर खत्म करना चाहते हैं कि कोई भी लाल बत्ती अब दिल्ली सरकार की किसी की गाड़ी के ऊपर लाल बत्ती नहीं लगेगी, ना मुख्यमंत्री की गाड़ी के ऊपर लगेगी, ना मंत्रियों की गाड़ी के ऊपर लगेगी।
Kejriwal is the 8th Chief Minister of Delhi. Enthusiastic crowds streamed into the venue since morning itself. They joined Kejriwal in singing "Insaan Ka Insaan Se Ho Bhaichara," the same song from the 1959 film Paigam that Kejriwal sang at his swearing-in ceremony in 2013. Kejriwal assured his audience that his government will fulfill every promise, be it on electricity bills, water or women's safety.
लेकिन एक-एक काम ठोस करेंगे, मजबूती के साथ करेंगे। मैं आज इतना आपको वादा करता हूं, 24 घंटे काम करेंगे हम लोग, हमारी पूरी टीम। मैं, मेरे मंत्री, मेरे एमएलए 24 घंटे काम करेंगे।
Reaching out to industrialists with whom he has had a prickly relationship, Kejriwal promised them that if they paid up their taxes, his government would not allow them to go waste.
दिल्ली के सभी व्यापारियों से, सभी लोगों से आज मैं ये वादा करता हूं कि आपको कोई भी विभाग आके तंग नहीं करेगा, कोई भी विभाग आके आपसे पैसे नहीं लेगा। आप खुल के धंधा अपना बिजनेस करो। हम चाहते हैं कि आपका बिजनेस बढ़े, हम चाहते हैं कि उद्योग बढ़े, लेकिन अपना सब लोग अपनी इच्छा से पूरा टैक्स भर देना।
A key promise that did not fall go to unnoticed was on making people in the city feel safe. Kejriwal said incidents like the recent church attacks will not be tolerated. On Friday, the Prime Minister summoned the Delhi Police Commissioner after an incident of theft in a Catholic school.
पिछले कुछ महीनों में दिल्ली के अंदर कुछ घटनाएं घटी जिससे सारी दिल्ली के लोग बहुत नाराज हैं, बहुत गुस्से में। धर्मों के बीच में कुछ दंगे कराने की कोशिश की गई, कुछ एक चर्च को आग लगा दी गई, कुछ चर्च हैं जिनके ऊपर हमले किए गए। उन सारी ताकतों से मैं कहना चाहता हूं, जो इस किस्म की राजनीति कर रहे हैं कि इस किस्म की राजनीति बंद कीजिए।
Unlike the last time, Arvind Kejriwal came in a grey-black Toyota Innova with a muffler wrapped around. The Ramlila Maidan sported a festive mood throughout the ceremony, at which Secretary D.M. Spolia announced that the President appointed Arvind Kejriwal as the Delhi's Chief Minister. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, along with Kejriwal, 6 other Aam Aadmi Party members took oath as cabinet ministers today. The 7-member cabinet is one of India's youngest, with an average age of less than 40 years. Here's a look at the portfolio distribution in the small cabinet.
Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal has decided to keep a small cabinet, reserving only 10% of the total members in the House. He will not keep any big-ticket portfolio under him this time. He earlier held finance, water and power portfolios during his first stint in 2013. Apart from Kejriwal, Manish Sisodia also took oath as the first Deputy Chief Minister of Delhi. He will keep the urban development and education portfolios. He will also have the additional charge of finance.
इन सारे डिपार्टमेंट्स में मंत्रियों से काम करवाना और मंत्रियों से काम करवाते हुए उनके पूरे कामकाज पर एक डिपार्टमेंट के कामकाज पर पूरी तरह से निगरानी रखना, जनता की समस्याओं को समझ के जहां-जहां भी ग्रे एरियाज हैं वहां गवर्नेंस में चेंज करना, उन विभागों के कामकाज में चेंज करना, उन मंत्रियों के कामकाज को ठीक कराना और सारे एमएलएज जितने एमएलएज हैं उनसे काम करवाना, ये केजरीवाल जी ने अपने पास रखा है.
The Home and Law Ministries will be with Jitendra Tomar. Aam Aadmi Party's previous law minister, the controversial Somnath Bharti, has been dropped this time. Satyendra Jain returns as health minister. He will also head the power and industries portfolio. Gopal Rai, a former student leader who was once asked by Anna Hazare to leave a meeting after a public squabble, will take over the transport and labour ministries. Sandeep Kumar, a software engineer, will be in charge of women and child development. And Asim Ahmed Khan will head food and civil supply. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, ahead of the Union Budget's presentation, Prime Minister Narendra Modi today pitched his government's Make in India campaign. He also invited US-based General Electric to manufacture ships in India while inaugurating the company's first manufacturing plant in the country.
Ahead of the Union Budget, the Prime Minister once again reaching out to investors, assuring that more reforms are on their way. Narendra Modi invited multinationals to make use of the large talent pool in the country.
मैं दुनिया के उद्योगकारों को विश्वास दिलाता हूं कि भारत एक ऐसी उर्वरा भूमि है, यहां एक ऐसा टैलेंटेड यूथ है कि आप यहां का मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कॉम्पिटिटिव वर्ल्ड के अंदर पूरी ताकत के साथ आप खड़े रह सकते हैं, आगे बढ़ सकते हैं और अधिक आगे बढ़ने की संभावनाओं को वहां पर शिलान्यास कर सकते हैं.
Inaugurating the multimodal manufacturing facility set up by the American engineering giant GE Corporation, Modi assured that his administration will improve ease of doing business.
और रेलवे सिर्फ यातायात का साधन नहीं, रेलवे भारत की इकोनॉमी का ड्राइविंग फोर्स बन सकती है. उस रूप में रेलवे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को ले जाया जा सकता है. उसके मैन्युफैक्चरिंग के लिए भी बहुत सारी संभावनाएं पड़ी हैं. उसको भी बल देने का प्रयास हम करना चाहते हैं.
In a significant announcement, Modi also announced that number of clearances for setting up hospitality ventures will be brought down from the present prohibitive figure of 110 to just about 20.
और दुनिया के गणमान्य आर्थिक जगत के लोगों ने लिखा है कि आज विश्व में सबसे तेज गति से आगे बढ़ने वाली इकोनॉमी है, तो वो इकोनॉमी हिंदुस्तान की है.
The NDA government is presenting its first full budget on 28th February. There is much speculation that it could turn out to be a complete reform-oriented budget, given the horrendous drooping that the BJP faced in the last week's Delhi elections. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, in the upcoming Union Budget, financial strengthening of the civil aviation sector is expected to be a key focus for Finance Minister Arun Jaitley. The Aviation Ministry is seeking an additional 1,000 crore rupees allocation to connect the remote parts of the country with the airline route. So let's take a look at what are the other measures that are expected.
Despite increase in air connectivity, air travel is still out of reach of a large number of aspirational Indians. Scheme for development of new airports in Tier 1 and Tier 2 will be launched for implementation through the Airport Authority of India and the PPPs.
In line with the finance minister's promise last year, people in far-flung places of Northeast are hoping the upcoming budget will take the first steps towards air connectivity for them.
Least subsidy model which will be brought in, or just more broad-based the route dispersal guidelines. So what would be the route taken is something that will need to be carefully worked out. The Naresh Chandra committee had suggested an economic model that you bid out these routes and the airline which demands the least subsidy may be allotted to the route. So maybe this is the time now to start considering those possibilities.
The Civil Aviation Ministry has sought an allocation of 1,000 crores to connect remote areas in the country. In the 2014-15 budget, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley allotted 9,474 crore rupees to civil aviation. Nearly 16% or about 6,500 crores went to Air India alone. The story was the same the previous year when Air India got 5,500 crores. Although Air India hasn't seen any profit in all the months the Modi government has been in power, it is expected to continue budgetary support just the same this year as well. As part of the national policy, the Civil Aviation Ministry wants to strengthen domestic airline sector by providing adequate infrastructure in airports in remote areas. Out of the 107 airports in operation, the Airports Authority of India incurs losses on 93 of them. As a result, airlines are forced to cut down services and stop flights to many of the cities. The Aviation Ministry wants an essential air services fund to compensate airlines operating in such non-performing routes.
Intent. So, yeah, and the Essential Services Fund is not mentioned at all. Essential Aviation Fund, which was mentioned earlier. What is essential services, what is regional services, all these things are in a way not there. So I think it's a very inadequate document.
The Civil Aviation Ministry draft policy is promoting an essential air services fund or a regional air connectivity fund. The fund is intended to ensure essential air services to remote and inaccessible areas, especially regions in the Northeast. Narendra Modi government wants to make good use of the public-private partnership model to provide air connectivity to the remotest part of the country. Industry is expecting a clear policy line on PPP model in the upcoming budget. With camera person Narayan, Rajkamal Rao, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, another success for the Indian Navy. India saw a flawless launch and test firing of its 290-kilometer range BrahMos supersonic cruise missile today. The launch took place from the Navy's newest destroyer, INS Kolkata, off the Goa coast. The missile met all its designed parameters. BrahMos Chief Sudhir Mishra congratulated his team and the Indian Navy on the successful mission. First ship of its class, INS Kolkata, has the capability of firing the highest number of BrahMos missiles. This two-stage missile, the first one being solid and the second one a ramjet liquid propellant, has already been inducted into the Army and Navy, and the Air Force version is in a final stage of trial. More news and updates from across the country and nationwide. Swine flu has claimed 12 more lives in Rajasthan, raising the total to 142 this year. While 3 people succumbed in Jaipur, 2 died in Jodhpur's government hospital. Close to 1,900 patients have been tested positive for the virus in the state so far. Former Trinamool Congress MP Srinjoy Bose was questioned again by the CBI today in the Sharda chit fund scam case. He was quizzed by the CBI for around 3 hours. He was earlier arrested by the CBI and later granted conditional bail in the case. This was his first visit to the CBI office after getting bail on the 4th of February. 3 crude bombs were found in a car that breached security at the UP governor's residence in Lucknow today. One person was taken into custody by Lucknow police for trying to enter the high security zone in a car that contained 3 country-made bombs. Well, time for a quick break right now, but coming up on the other side, the World Cup hosts are off to winning starts in their first 2 matches. Also, a special preview of the India versus Pakistan clash on the other side. Welcome back here watching the news tonight. Now, let's talk about some sports and, of course, the World Cup cricket that begins. Now, India will begin their title defence tomorrow at Adelaide. Dhoni and his men will lock horns with arch rivals Pakistan in the first match. There'll be a lot at stake in this high-voltage clash. Both sides looked upbeat for a positive start to their campaigns.
India will go into the first match with an overwhelming 5-0 record against Pakistan in World Cups. India has never lost to the arch rivals since the two teams were first pitted against each other in the 1992 edition in Sydney. But all that can change tomorrow. Pakistan will be looking for their first win against India in the World Cup. With the unforgettable tour down under so far, the pressure to make a turnaround is growing on the Indian camp. However, Indian captain Mahendra Singh Dhoni said the team is well equipped to tackle the pressure.
Irrespective of where the stats lie, what's most important for us will be the execution part, because we have got quite a few plans, but execution is something, being consistent and executing is something that we have lacked to some extent. So, hopefully we'll start executing well.
Pakistan too feels the pressure of the big ticket clash on Sunday. Pakistan arrived to Australia with their spin spearhead Saeed Ajmal suspended for an illegal bowling action. There were more blows when Umar Gul, Junaid Khan and all-rounder Mohammad Hafiz were also ruled out due to injury. But captain Misbah-ul Haq sounded positive.
The India-Pakistan is always all about pressure, and the best thing we can do is just enjoy the game, enjoy the atmosphere, go there, play your game, be positive, and that's the way how it is. And I think if you could just go there and play your natural game, that's how you could handle the pressure well. And that's my advice to the team.
The refurbished Adelaide Oval will see a full 47,000 capacity on Sunday. Tickets for the encounter were sold out in a mere 20 minutes.
Lovely shot.
The stadium will be filled to the brim for the match, which is expected to be a tight contest. For now, the fans are keeping their fingers crossed while cheering for their teams. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And we're joined by Shekhar Luthra. He's the sports editor at the DNA. To help us understand, Shekhar, who's going to win tomorrow? That's the biggest question on everybody's mind. But how are the teams shaping up? In terms of just on paper, who looks stronger right now?
Well, if you had asked me this question about 1 month back, I would have said 70% advantage India. But right now, I think it's 50-50 for the simple reason. We had invested so much on our pace bowlers, especially Ishant, Bhuvneshwar. And, we actually thought that they are going to spearhead our bowling attack. But what has happened over the last 15 days? We knew Ishant was not fit from the November 2014. But we still persisted with him, and at the last moment when he has been ruled out unfit. Now we are trying to get another one who is, again, Mohit Sharma. Whether he'll be a certainty tomorrow or not is something, only Dhoni knows. Whereas Bhuvneshwar, despite all his injuries, we again, we still feel he'll be available tomorrow or for the rest of the tournament, and nobody knows. Dhaval Kulkarni is there, but he's still a, part-time or a standby, not the regular one. So in a way, I think then there are other problems, Ravindra Jadeja, your Sir Jadeja, for Mr. Dhoni. He is, again, the way he was bowling against Afghanistan, he looked to me as if he was 50 or 60% fit. So with these kind of, players, if you are going to have your World Cup campaign, then there could be a problem. Whereas for Pakistan, I think they were 30 advantage, if you a month back. But right now, they have made 3 changes. And whether it was Hafiz or, Ajmal or Umar Gul or Junaid, everybody, they have replaced them. There are newcomers in that team and they are looking quite formidable. The way they played against England and defeated them, they were actually as if, they were bowling with Akram or Waqar Yunus of their old. So in a way, I think it's going to be a 50-50 game. Pressure again, it's very easy to say, Ishan pressure. But both Dhoni and Misbah knows. Misbah is 41. Dhoni is because of off-field problems. They both know if they lose this game, probably they will have to retire after this World Cup.
Right, indeed, a lot at stake for both teams, Shekhar. But if you talk about, India during the 2011 World Cup, of course, almost battered the opponents out of the contention. This time around, how does the Indian batting line up? This is the first World Cup that, in my memory, Sachin Tendulkar is not playing. So the Indian batting lineup, how does it look, and what about the fitness over there?
Well, I think, it all boils down to, I think, how Rohit Sharma is going to open. Because to my mind, I think he has one player who has actually matured quite a bit in the last couple of months. Because he's the one, if he crosses, say, 30 or 40, he's always there for 150 kind of scores. He has scored 2 double centuries also in the one days. So I think lot is depending on his form also. And then Virat Kohli, we all know he's probably the most mature person in the team. But the biggest problem is how Dhoni is going to perform. Dhoni is looking like a lost cow in the jungle. Dhoni is looking like as somebody who is not in control of the things. This is not the same Dhoni which was, which gave us this cup in 2011. He was the man in control. He was the captain cool of Indian side. But right now, because of other problems in the, off-field problems, he's looking completely lost. Will he be able to be the same kind of finisher? If he could do that, I think our team is quite formidable. But if he's not in control, if he's looking again the kind of performances he has given over last 2 months, then problem is for the entire Indian team. So in a way, I think lot will depend on how Indian batting will perform, because we all understand our bowling is again tits and bits of little bit here and there.
All right, so one star performer that we can look forward to who would not fail the Indian side out of the 11, who would you bet your money on?
Very difficult, but yes, I think for me the man right now for this cause is probably Virat Kohli. Because if he performs at number 3, we have a problem in the opening slot. Shikhar Dhawan is not scoring. If we have if we lose our wicket in first couple of overs, then obviously Virat Kohli has to play not as a sheet anchor role, but also as somebody who is going to lead Indian side in the coming future. So I think man to look out for is Virat Kohli.
All right, let's wish the Indian team all the very best for tomorrow's match. That starts at 9 a.m. India Standard Time, so do tune into that. But Shekhar, thanks very much for coming in and helping us understand who has the edge in this contest. Shekhar saying it's just too close to call this time around. And the World Cup hosts Australia and New Zealand made a winning start to their campaigns today. In the first match, New Zealand crushed Sri Lanka by 98 runs in Christchurch. In the second match, Australia comprehensively defeated England by 111 runs.
The much-awaited Cricket World Cup got off to a cracking start today. Host New Zealand handed Sri Lanka a convincing defeat in the opening match of the event at Christchurch. New Zealand posted an imposing 331 for 6, with both captain Brendan McCullum and Corey Anderson smashing half-centuries. Kane Williamson also chipped in with a useful 57 runs.
Yeah, it puts us in a great position, We've obviously taken down Sri Lanka, which is, they always perform well at World Cups and at tournaments. So to take them down is, I guess it's a nice feeling to be ahead of the 8 ball leading into the second game, and obviously we've got Scotland coming up, and they gave us a decent run for our money in Lincoln when we had a warm-up game, so we're not taking them lightly either.
Lankan bowlers were smashed all over the park, with Kulasekara and Malinga proving to be the most expensive.
I don't think this is Lasit's best bowling effort, so we believe he will come back strongly in the next few matches.
Sri Lanka faced a tough time chasing the target, losing 3 key wickets of Thirimane, Jayawardene and Sangakkara in quick succession. Thirimane was the lone batsman to offer any semblance of a fight, with 65 runs off 60 balls.
And that's pulled away nicely.
In the second match, Australia outshined England at the MCG. Australia scored 342 for 9 batting first. Opener Aaron Finch struck the tournament's first century with 12 boundaries and 3 sixes.
Tickled fine, and a leap in the air, a punch of the air, and Aaron Finch goes through to 100 on his home ground. What a day.
Glenn Maxwell too joined the party, blazing his way to a 40-ball 66 runs. With wickets falling at regular intervals, England seemed completely out of touch during their chase. The first 2 wickets fell in the first 10 overs itself, with barely 50 runs on the scoreboard. Next to go were Ian Bell and Joe Root, failing to provide any working platform to the team at 66 for 4. James Taylor and Wokes provided England some hope with a solid partnership, but failed to see them through. Mitchell Marsh, who took 5 wickets for 33 runs, left England wounded. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Coming back and takes a good catch.
The Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif today welcomed the upcoming visit of Foreign Secretary S. Jaishankar. Sharif said Pakistan wanted peaceful relations with its neighbour. He also went on to say that all issues including Kashmir will be on the agenda. The government announced the new Foreign Secretary's visit after Prime Minister Modi telephoned Sharif to convey his best wishes for the ICC Cricket World Cup. Modi also called other heads of the SAARC nations. Cricket diplomacy has always been a prominent icebreaker for both nations. Various Prime Ministers, including Dr. Manmohan Singh, have tried it in the past. The US welcomed India's move to revive talks, reiterating that it was critical to maintaining peace and security in South Asia. Now, fighting intensified in the Ukrainian border ahead of the much-awaited ceasefire set to begin tomorrow. Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko said that the ceasefire agreement is in big danger even before it starts. At least 3 people were killed in the fresh fighting.
Gunshots rage on in eastern Ukraine. Just hours ahead of the ceasefire set to begin on Sunday, rockets hit a school in eastern Ukraine, killing a child and 2 others. Over a dozen were reportedly killed on Friday. The clashes continue despite a ceasefire agreement during the Minsk talks.
It is very challenging that Donetsk and Lugansk leadership also immediately, after signing agreements, doubted that their implementation is realistic. For us, it was and is unacceptable that during meeting in Minsk, new 50 tanks, 40 artillery systems, and 40 armored vehicles arrived from Russia to separatists.
Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko said that it is an attack on the Minsk results. Meanwhile, the United States said that they are concerned by reports of heavy weapons coming across the border from Russia.
After what we reach in Minsk, this is not just an attack of Ukrainian civilian and of Ukrainian living sector. This is attack of the Minsk results. And without any explanation, because unfortunately after Minsk, the offensive operation of Russia intensified significantly.
Russian units along the border with Ukraine are preparing a large shipment of supplies to pro-Russian forces fighting in eastern Ukraine. This is clearly not in the spirit of this week's agreement. All parties must show complete restraint in the run-up to the Sunday ceasefire, including an immediate halt to the Russian and separatist assault on Debaltseve and other Ukrainian towns.
The blame game continues on who is behind the shelling, as both separatists and the government accuse each other. Presidents of France, Russia, Ukraine, along with the German Chancellor Angela Merkel, is expected to discuss the issue over the phone during this weekend. The United Nations Secretary Council will also meet in emergency session on Sunday to discuss the crisis. Bureau Report, Rajya TV.
And more international news in Global Buzz. Islamic State militants launched a suicide bomb attack on the US airbase in Iraq. According to Pentagon, the militants were defeated by the Iraqi soldiers defending the facility. But the group captured an Iraqi town near the base. However, US downplayed the fall of the town, which is within striking distance of the airbase. The Canadian police today unfolded a plot to carry out a mass shooting. 3 suspects were arrested in connection with the plot. A 4th suspect shot himself dead as the police forces surrounded his home. All 4 suspects had intended to go launch an attack at a public venue and then kill themselves. Motive of the plot is still unknown. At least 7 people have been killed after a Bangladesh ferry capsized yesterday. 2 more bodies were recovered by rescuers today. Coast Guard staff, along with local rescuers, are still searching for others. The overloaded vessel's engine abruptly shut down, triggering panic among 200 people on board. Well, that's the news tonight. Good night.